Warhammer Fest is well underway, and the first big set of reveals was of course to do with Warhammer 40k, and in particular the upcoming starter set for the release of 10th edition. We kinda knew a lot of what to expect, but we have now seen the full box set reveal and all the units inside, and so in this and the next video we are going to be taking a closer look at those units for both the Space Marines and their opponents in this starter set, the Tyranids. So first up, the new box, and you can see the cover art here. It is absolutely enormous. It is chock full of stuff and contains not only a huge 392 page rulebook, a 66 set deck of mission cards, transfer sheets, everything like that, but on the model front, not only do you get a whopping 47 new Tyranids, but there are also 25 brand spanking new Marine models to get excited about as well. The core rules themselves are 60 pages long, with the rest of the rulebook being the usual gorgeous artwork and lore that we've come to expect, and it certainly does seem that this set is aimed at pushing the narrative forward. The newly christened Soulblade fleets are being sent out to try and stop the encroaching High Fleet Leviathan in its tracks. So there certainly is a lot of background and lore. This isn't just a starter set. This does seem as though it is going to be the starting point for a lot of the narrative that 10th edition follows. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see exactly how the lore in the books does sort of play out and what happens by the end of it. On the model front though, the Marines are led, although they're all chapter agnostic design-wise, from a lore perspective they are led by Ultramarine Captain Agamemnon of the First Company, and here he is in all of his glory, standing atop a fallen Screamer Killer head. And I have to say, I really do love this model. I was a bit worried about how sort of he was going to look, because I knew he was going to be fairly bland so that you could paint him up as every colour. But I do really like him. I think he's going to go absolutely brilliantly along the newly upscaled Terminators as well as the Terminator Librarian. And I actually do really like the fact that he's so blank. There is no molded on chapter insignia on him, so you really can build and paint him up to match any chapter that you want him to. He can absolutely be painted up as an Imperial Fist or a Salamander or a Deathwing Terminator. He has nothing that makes him a Ultramarine, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. As you can see, he comes with a Stormbolter and a Relic Power Sword, and apparently with his heightened base, according to Eddie, he can almost stand toe-to-toe with characters like Abaddon, so he is going to be a fairly big chunky centerpiece model, although Eddie did clarify by toe-to-toe he meant height-wise he would almost be as big. Obviously in battle, his datasheet and his rules, he probably wouldn't stand a chance against Abaddon one-on-one. Backing him up is the Terminator Librarian that we've already seen, glowing nipples and all. He does have a gorgeous model, and I can really see a lot of Dark Angel players, myself included, absolutely chomping at the bit to get this set purely for the brand new Terminator models alone. And it seems like he's going to be a pretty good unit to add to the Deathwing Terminators to give them the various buffs and the 4-up feel no pain that he does that we saw in an earlier preview. So I'm really looking forward to getting him painted up and added to my Deathwing list. We also got our first proper look at the Apothecary in Gravis armor, who didn't fare quite so well in the trailer but looks a lot healthier here. I've always been a big fan of Apothecaries, and this one is no different. He has his Absolver bolt pistol, and the Gravis armor, I have to say, actually looks really good on him. I don't know if they've maybe adjusted it at all or readjusted it, but it looks, to me anyway, just a little bit slimmer and more proportionate than, say, Aggressors or the old 8th edition Gravis Captain. Maybe white is just a slimming colour on Marines, but I do think it looks a lot better than other Gravis that we've seen. The interesting thing about this guy is he isn't your typical apothecary. He is an apothecary biologist, and he basically goes around and collects samples of his enemies, which he then uses to study them and understand them so that he can help the rest of his forces and his armies fight off the Xenos. And you can see he's got his little handy sample box in his hand. But on the tabletop, what he does is he joins a unit, and then instead of healing them like a usual apothecary would, he actually gives the squad a buff to help it fight and perform better against the enemy. So maybe it'll be some kind of bonus to hit against a certain enemy type, or rerolls, or better AP, or something like that. So it is a slightly different, slightly unique take on the Apothecary, but one that I think will be really interesting to play around with, and he should go exceedingly well with a squad of Eradicators or Heavy Intercessors, I think. We also get another new HQ in the box set in the Lieutenant in Phobos Armor, who again I think we've already seen, but he still looks just as cool in my opinion. They've really gone all in on the Tyranid sort of basing scheme here, and he has clearly been busy because not only is there a bit of Tyranid carapace on his base, but there's some he cut off earlier and has attached to his shoulder pad. They do say that he can infiltrate ahead of your main force, so presumably him and other Phobos units will still have an infiltrate style rule where they can set up outside your deployment zone and just get ready to bring death to the enemy right from the get-go. He does have a combi weapon and like 3 daggers, so it looks like he's going to be pretty damn good at killing stuff up close and personal, which kind of makes sense for what he's meant to be doing. Also, I really love the scars on his head. I don't know if they are just painted on or they're part of the actual detailing on the model, but I really hope they're part of the detailing because to me that adds a lot to the design. I think it looks really cool. It shows that he's been in this war, in this battle, and has been scarred and scratched by the talons of the Tyranids for a good long while. So I hope that isn't just painted on. I do hope that that is part of the plastic design. On top of the individual characters though, there are also some brand new units coming in the Leviathan box. First of which isn't actually a brand new unit, it's an old favourite, the Sternguard Veterans, but they are now Primaris size. And yes, the old favourite drop podding combi weapon toting boys are definitely back, and they are bringing all of their favourite firepower with them. These guys look to have a heavy bolter as well as a combi melter and combi plasma loadout, and they did say in the preview that these are mono build single pose in this set, so I think this is the loadout that you're going to be stuck with, at least until they get a full separate release. But it is interesting that they aren't Primaris Sternguard. They are very much like the Terminators, in which they are just Sternguard, so you will still be able to use your current firstborn models alongside these new ones. No one is being squatted away just yet. They do, I have to say, look brilliant. They are a fantastic updated version of the current Sternguard, which already look pretty good, but these guys just look fantastic. And as they pointed out in the preview, these guys, as you can see, they've started to add a bit more gothic baroque styling to their designs. The one in the top left has an older mark of helmet, whilst if you look around you can see some scattered shoulder pads that are of an older design as well. So there really is this intentional blurring of Firstborn and Primaris now, and I think just the very fact that they are called Sternguard now is a very clear indication that that line is being blurred and there is not going to be as much distinction between a Firstborn unit and a Primaris unit now. There is going to be a lot of crossover, which allows you to still use some of your older models. Even if they get removed and aren't sold anymore, you can still use your old Firstborn Sternguard in this Sternguard Veteran Squad, which I think personally is great for 40k, and it means that people that are worried about things being squatted or their army not being playable anymore, in theory you should be less concerned now, because Sternguard are here to stay, Terminators are here to stay, and you can use either the brand new Primaris size ones or your current Firstborn size ones with no issue really. On the topic of Terminators, we also get the 5 Terminators which we've already seen, the brand new ones, and they are still just stunning. They are a really faithful, accurate, gorgeous update to the older kit, and personally I cannot wait to get them painted up in the Deathwing Bone. I've got a load of old Firstborn Terminators, and my plan, when they eventually get a release, is to just intersperse 1 or 2 Primaris ones in the squads, so it shows that the Firstborn and the Primaris are intermingling and there's not this separation anymore. I think that will look really cool and just add a bit more of a distinctive profile to the squads, which I'm all for. I love distinct profiles on miniatures and squads. There is, however, a completely brand new unit coming in this box set, and that is the Infernus Squad, which a lot of people correctly guessed at based on the trailer. And these are very much like Hellblasters. They are a totally focused single weapon choice squad, but unlike the plasma of the Hellblasters, these guys are all rocking Pyreblasters, which you may remember from the Black Templar redesign from the other year, and they are basically just upsized flamers. And they did give us a peek at the stat line. The Pyreblaster is a 12-inch range, strength 5 D6 shotgun. Torrent, the rule it has, is apparently, according to people that have been playing the game at Warhammer Fest, the auto-hit part of the gun, so fear not, these are still auto-hitting, but this does mean that this full squad can potentially be putting out 10d6 auto-hitting strength 5 shots, which sounds pretty terrifying if you ask me. They also have a really cool rule where they can force an enemy to make a battle shock test with Purge the Foe if you hit them, so they can really do a load of damage and then still make an enemy squad utterly helpless by forcing a battle shock test on them, and potentially, if they fail it, making them unable to receive stratagems or being able to hold an objective. And against the Tyranids in particular, I think these guys are going to be an absolute lifesaver for you if you are facing off against them. The final new thing they show off is another big fella, and something we also saw in the trailer. This is the Ballistus Dreadnought. And I mean, just look at this gorgeous update to the old box Dreadnought. It even has the classic las cannon and missile launcher loadout, so I immediately love this. One of the first Dreadnoughts I ever had was an old box Dreadnought with a las cannon and missile launcher, and I just fell in love with it immediately. So seeing this updated, redesigned version just hits all my nostalgia buttons. I do have a couple of bugbears. I think his legs are maybe a little bit too long. He looks a tiny bit like he skipped leg day, although I will admit this could just be the angle of the picture. It may look better when we see a 360 image of it, but like aside from that, I think it really does look brilliant. I cannot wait to get one painted up. The top of him just looks perfect to me, and the legs, whilst they're a little bit iffy, I'm hoping they will get better when we see a fuller picture of him, but even if they're not, it's not the end of the world. Like, he still looks brilliant to me. We also got a peek at his datasheet. He is toughness 10 with a 2-up save and 12 wounds, so he is pretty chunky. He has his own unique weapons as well. He has a Ballistus las cannon, which is 2 shots, hitting on 3s at strength 12, minus 3 AP and d6 plus 1 damage. And then he also has his Ballistus missile launcher, which either fires 2d6 strength 5 frag shots or 2 strength 10, minus 2 AP, d6 damage crack shots. He then also has his storm bolters, and he has a very cool rule where if he shoots at an enemy which is above half strength, he gets to re-roll his hits. So he is going to be exceedingly accurate, and he can put down a solid 4 shots that do at least d6 damage each, so he really does have a lot of potential, I think. And I mean, with 12 wounds, a 2-up save, and the objective control value of 4, he is going to be absolutely perfect for just sitting back, holding a home objective for you, and just taking out enemy armor and vehicles and monsters all the way from the other end of the board. So I think he is definitely going to have a place in almost any Space Marine army. All in all, I have to say the Marine stuff is looking brilliant from this set. You get 1 Captain, 1 Librarian, 1 Lieutenant, 1 Apothecary, 1 Dreadnought, and then you get the 5 Stern Guard, the 5 Terminators, and the 10 Infernus Marines. It is a genuinely brilliant little starting army if you are new to 40k, but then even if you already have a big collection, this is actually a cool, solid set of new units to add to your force. So I think everyone is going to be wanting to pick this up, in addition to the fact that you get, the rulebook and all the Tyranids stuff as well. But the big question is, of course, will these 25 models be enough to stem the unending horde of those 47 brand new Tyranid monstrosities? Well, in the next video, we are going to dive into that side of the box and find out. Thank you very much for watching. Please do, as always, like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, and I will see you in the next video for some Tyranid goodness.